What's up, everyone? Today I want to talk about something very different. Well, I've talked a little bit about this before, but let's talk to having back at you with another video. If you like the type of content that I create, make sure you like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications that you don't miss a video, all that or don't. But anyway, I want to talk about how a man's past dating experiences define his life later in life. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this, as I've talked a little bit about this before. But, when you're like a teenager, right? Teen guy, the women you date will kind of set up how you view dating, how you view yourself in the future, right? Now, especially for like an access man, there's a very brutal reality to this, because maybe you don't have any experience, right? I was watching a guy, one of the guys I watch, and this one time he said he'd give anything for a female to stalk him. Give or take whatever you make of that. I understand where he's coming from. I mean, I wouldn't want that for me, but I understand where he's coming from. Anyway, this guy talked about how he had no dating experience, and that he wouldn't even know what to do if he actually just, bam, suddenly got a woman, right? Like he honestly wouldn't know what to do. And this is kind of the harsh reality for a lot of access men. Like they don't really have a lot of knowledge on this, and let's take it like this. If you're an otaku, that's gonna, a lot of women don't want that. They want a man who's just gonna spend a bunch of money on them. If you're an otaku, more than likely you'd probably rather spend money on yourself, right? I get that too. Like, I think it's better than spending a bunch of money on a woman that don't care about you. But these will set up the man for how he views himself later in life. If a man has gone pretty much that long without dating anyone, not getting any chicks, more than likely he's going to be touch starved. We've talked about touch starvation on the channel before, and even some men who have gotten a woman feel extremely touch starved, right? And the touch starvation is extremely draining, brutal, and as it already is, without all the other things added onto it, because the touch starvation that's pretty bad form of loneliness right there. But anyway, these men are obviously lonely too. That brings me to the next thing. They're lonely. And if you do your research, loneliness is even more deadly than smoking like several packs of cigarettes a day. Now, if you really think about that, that's harsh. That's brutal. I feel like lonely people die earlier. As a matter of fact, you see these marriages that one spouse dies, and then you'll look at their tombstones, and then it's like 2 or 3 years tops, right? You'll see they died, and then they're buried right beside of them. I think the reason for this is they're already getting old. The intense loneliness is amplified, and their body just simply just cannot take that. So it just gives out, right? Likewise, I get that. I understand it. I mean, I guess that would be me too, I guess, you know, pretty much. So, like, you know, but another thing too is, like, if a man has had, say, 5 girlfriends in the past, say he's like, I don't know, 22 years old, 23, say he's had like 5 girlfriends, right? And then all of them were toxic, right? They were narcissistic, they, you know, they gaslit, they, you know, did all this breadcrumbing, love bombing, you know, all that crap, you know, all the stuff we talked about here. You know, the thing about this is, you know, this is going to shape the man's view of dating, but it's also going to shape the man's view of women as a whole. You know, and it's like, you know, this is a pretty sad reality, because it's like, you know, they feel like that they can't trust them. They can't trust them as far as they can throw them, right? And to have to deal with that, to have to endure that type of pain and whatnot, that's brutal. That's a humiliation ritual in itself. Like, it's, and you know, you try to talk to somebody about it, and nah, they won't talk to you about it. Sorry for the wind's up again. They won't talk about it, and you know, it's very brutal to have to deal with, because you know, you're sitting here, if you're a man, you're wanting a woman, or maybe you're a woman wanting a man, and can't find one. Maybe you're a good woman who say maybe you don't want Chad. You know, maybe you want an access man, right? And it's like the right access man you can't even find, because a lot of these access men, they done gave up. You know, they've realized, like, you know, it's like, you know, these people have always fussing and moaning about these men not putting back into society. Why would a man like this put back into society? Why would he do that when the society hates him? Why would he do that when he's constantly made fun of? Why would he constantly do that when he's a joke, a class clown within this society? And he's not going to do that. He'd be a dumbass to do that, right? Like, he would be stupid. And, you know, it's not going to change. You know, more men are waking up. And I've seen a thing. There's a very large amount of Generation Z men. Apparently they learned from my generation, and a lot of them's done walked out. They've quit. They refuse to work. They refuse to put back into a society that hates them. You know, it's like, you know, it's kind of like that Limp Bizkit song, you know, Limp Bizkit from back in the 90s. It's kind of like, you know, that song, My Generation. Like, you know, he's like, we won't ever give a F until you give a F about us. Like, you know, honestly, basically this song is about boomers, how boomers just didn't give a damn about any generation after them. And this is one reason why we are in the predicament we're in. There's many of reasons, but that is one. And, you know, they also see all this stuff going on with, like, you know, the stuff we talk about, love bombing, breadcrumbing, gaslighting, narcissism, all of it, you know. Like, they're saying that a lot of these women are nothing but full of it. And, you know, some of these women are even saying that some of the men are even full of it. Like, and it's just, it's brutal, but like, you know, this will shape a man's view on future things. As a matter of fact, this could even make a man give up completely, because, you know, why would they need to work for something? Why would they need to even lift a finger to do anything when they don't have nothing to do it for? Like, it's just not going to work. Like, I mean, that's why these men have checked out. They've given up. They don't care anymore, and I can't say that I blame them. I think they're doing the right thing, to be honest. You know, I even seen a thing as a podcast. Is this woman? She was exposing feminism, and this woman asked 3 different times to this feminist woman, "What are you going to do when all men walk away? What are you going to do?" And this woman was trying to answer with other dumb questions, right? She was totally evading the question, like all the other questions she was asked, but that's what they do, right? But, you know, she asked it again. What are you going to do when men don't care anymore? She goes, you know, the microphone that you're speaking in was made by a man. The building you're standing in was made by a man. The electrician, like the electric that you use, made by a man. And this woman, this feminist woman, she couldn't even say anything. She's like, "Oh, you got me." Because that's the thing. Sure, she might have said it smart alecky, but like the thing is she was actually telling the truth, because that she couldn't combat that. She couldn't combat it because they know society would collapse in 24 hours. If that, bro. Like, it may even collapse before that. Like, if every man just said, "You know what? I'm done. I'm not going to fix the power pole. I'm not going to fix the water system. I'm not going to do nothing." Right? All of them walked away. You would see a collapse like no other. Like, I mean, but a lot of these single men, you know, who are able to work, you know, that don't have any mental or physical disabilities, they've checked out. They don't care anymore. They don't care if they have to live with their parents till they're like 30s or 40s. They don't really care anymore, because it's not like their situation's going to change. So they've given up. Like, they do not care anymore. And I seen this video the other day. I want to share it in the Discord server, but it was about this Uber driver. He was an Access man, and he was filming live, right? And this video honestly kind of made me tear up, because it was just so good to see, you know, this Access man get a happy ending, right? And this pretty girl gets into the car, and he's like, "Are you the one I'm picking up?" And she's like, "Yeah." And then he's like, "Ask, okay, well, I'll get you there as soon as possible." You know, she's like, "Oh, no hurry." And then she starts asking questions to this guy. Like, she's the one, like, I'm gonna tell you now, if a woman's interested in you, she'll start asking questions. But, you know, this woman, she started asking questions to this Access man. And she was like, "Well, what," you know, and then eventually she's like, "Well, what are you doing later?" And then he was like, "Well, later, I'm gonna get off about 5 p.m. and then he goes, later I'm gonna go to my bingo with my mom and probably just play some games or whatever. And then she just kind of shook her head, you know. You could tell she wasn't mad at the answer or nothing. She was like, oh, she's like, well, you want to grab dinner? And this Access man looked like he was just about to break down in front of the freaking wheel, bro. Like, he's like, you serious? And she's like, yeah. And he goes, you do realize that I live with my mom, right? And then she's like, oh, I don't care. And then he's like, I live in my mom's basement. And she's like, I don't care. She says you're intriguing to me. She talked about, oh, you know, I like you. And you know, they keep on talking, and you know, this Access man, he looks like he's about to break down, right? And he's sitting there and he's like, you know, I don't know, like he's just like kind of dumbfounded, bro. Like he can't even believe this is happening, right? Like, and you know, make a long story short, you know, he found his true love like that. Seriously. And it's like, you know, that's crazy, bro. Like, you found your true love at the back of an Uber. And it's like, you know, when I finished watching the video, I literally honestly kind of shed a tear because I was so happy for this Access man. You know, this Access man, you know, he had gave up on women completely. Like, you could tell by the way he was talking, he just gave up because no woman ever wanted him. And because of their unrealistic standards and stuff, right? But like, you know, it's just like, you know, some Access men do get the woman. I've talked about this before. And most don't. You know, it's very hard for them to get it. And same thing with like women who, I don't really know what you would call the equivalent of a woman like an Access man. I know there's no such thing as like an Access woman, but I don't necessarily know what you would call that, but I guess I'll have to do some research into that. Basically like an outcast woman, I guess I'll use. You know, she looks for the man and constantly gets made fun of, or you know, humiliation ritual, all this stuff, right? But like, yeah, it's just these kinds of things will shape your view of how, you know, you view relationships as a whole. Like, honestly, I'll even be honest with you, some men and women, like if they had been, like, especially men, like if they've been through this type of stuff, they give up on relationships completely. Like, and I'm not talking about just romantic relationships. They give up on friendships as well because they feel like they can't trust a soul in the world. And, you know, that's very unfortunate, but like it happens all the time. And yeah, it's just, it's brutal. But anyway, yeah, another thing too that I'm gonna mention is like, if like, even if these men try, they're shot down before, you know, they're always called creeps or whatever. Chad don't get called a creep, bro. He don't get called a creep. He only gets told one thing by a woman, and that's F me. That's it. That's the only thing he gets told by a woman. And it's like, you know, this is a brutal reality for the Access men because society is always like about looks, like about perfectionism, that what they view as perfectionism, and it's like, you know, men and women both do this, but perfectionism is a lie. Like, and it's like, you know, that these like men, like this is access men, they can't really live up to that type of standard. They can't really, they don't really give a damn about these social norms or standards at all, right? And you know, like they get viewed as like they're crazy because they don't want to go by the social standards and whatnot. And it's like, I don't blame them. I ain't either. I don't care about that crap. Like, just treat everybody with kindness, bro. That's the way I see it. But anyway, you guys take care. Hope this is a pretty good video. Yeah, anyway, you know, if you got anything else you'd like me to talk about, if I know about it, I'll speak on it. Like I said, I got a lot of topics in my mind and stuff, but you know, that's one reason why the Otaku man, you know, like he loves his hobbies so much, like, you know, and it's like, that's a good thing. You know, a cope a day keeps the rope away, you know. But, yeah, anyway. Yeah, y'all take care. And I'll see you next time. Peace.